trend in the fitness industry has emerged. Bulking is dead. But is it really? A certain group of science-based influencers are claiming that a 100-calorie surplus is enough to see muscle growth occurring. And when you are actually increasing your calories, you're not actually in a surplus, but you're only adjusting your total calorie intake to your new total daily energy expenditure because you have new muscle which you have built, meaning that you're not actually bulking. Spoiler alert, they are just trying to reinvent the wheel. They are just playing with words at this point. That is literally a fucking lean bulk. Apparently, if you need to bulk and need to have excess energy resources to see progressive overload occurring, which is the #1 sign of muscle growth occurring, your program right out sucks, because building muscle is a signaling dependent process and not an energy dependent process. I agree that most programs suck ass, but to assume that you know it better than everybody else and that jacked guys have just become big due to an unnecessary high amount of calories, which compensates for the lack of knowledge when it comes to programming itself, and that you can achieve the same muscle building results with less fat gain via main gaining if your program is perfectly designed, seems more like a marketing tactic to sell the programs which they are making a living off, or I can pronounce it but a superiority complex instead of genuine fucking advice. As you can see, pro level natural bodybuilders go up to 20% body fat in the off season. Isn't that suboptimal by the terms of the science-based community? Couldn't they have made the same progress or even more while staying relatively lean without getting fat by just not eating in a surplus but only main gaining? No, because a higher surplus and therefore higher fat gain actually enhances muscle growth, although fat gain is proportionally higher as there isn't a one-to-one correlation between an increase in lean body mass and total body mass. If your goal is to build muscle, you should not be afraid to get a bit more fluffy in your bulking season. If that means that you can put on a bit more muscle, especially if you are a natural lifter, where the yearly gains that you make after the newbie gains phase is so marginal that you won't notice it, you might just have to live with the extra fat gain that you will have when you are properly bulking, and just be happy that you can increase the amount of muscle that you're building on a year-to-year basis by being in a calorie surplus instead of trying to main gain and stay lean year round. The good part is that you can quickly get rid of that fat by just doing a mini cut or a proper cut, which doesn't take more than 1 or 3 months max if you're not fat. Now let's come to the second claim of the science-based influencers, which is that you can still build muscle while cutting, which further supports the notion and self-created bubble they're living in that you don't have to bulk to build muscle. Building muscle while you're cutting is simply not possible if you're past the newbie beginner stage and or if you're not at a high body fat percentage where training is still productive even while cutting. For example, if you start off your cut at 20% body fat and cut to around 15%, you definitely can still build some muscle as your training is still very productive at that point. Now, if you continue to cut from 15 to 12% body fat, if your program is designed perfectly, you will hold to your numbers or still see progressive overload occurring every few weeks. You may build fractional amounts of muscle, which are not worth talking about, but you definitely won't lose muscle. Again, if your program is designed well and you're not doing any junk volume, which you can't recover from with the lack of energy resources. Now, when going to the extremes of cutting from 12% body fat to below 10%, you definitely cannot build any muscle and will eventually lose some. Shouldn't the extra fat gain on the bulk, combined with the initial anabolic time window while cutting due to the higher body fat percentage, balance things out or even be more optimal than main gaining due to your training being as productive as possible because you're essentially progressing your lifts and therefore building muscle year round? If you're not entering a body fat percentage, which is too low for a natural lifter, which will sabotage your training. Quick commercial break if you're interested in one-to-one coaching to maximize your natural fucking potential or are interested in pre-made programs for every type of split and or muscle building goal, make sure to check out my website in the links down below. Now let's come to the practical aspect of bulking and cutting compared to main gaining. You need to have a set goal of what to do and where to go. Are you in a building or fat loss phase? Are you bulking or cutting? Do you need to add or subtract calories? No one can accurately add just 100 calories to their total daily energy expenditure or build significant amounts of muscle while cutting after the newbie stage. Of course, I would love that to be the case, but this just isn't applicable to the real world. You will be turning around in circles and get nowhere. Doing a slow lean bulk while just adding 200 to max 300 calories to your TDE is more than enough to see muscle growth occurring. It won't make you fat. We already have an epidemic of body dysmorphia and everyone wanting to be lean year fucking round, ending up to complain that they have hit their natural limit because they stop progressing, committing to fucking gear instead of fucking bulk. Stop fear-mongering people. Studies are important and I'm a science-based lifter myself, but you cannot deny real-world experience, anecdotal experience, and what the pro-natural fucking bodybuilders are doing. Especially as most studies are done on untrained novices, which completely takes out the credibility out of that study because they can grow from anything. Getting massive is fucking hard. Fearing that you will get too fat from bulking if you're approaching things correctly doesn't even make sense. Do you really think that it is easy to go to 20% body fat, being a fucking mass monster, while eating a clean bodybuilding diet, only because someone is at a higher body fat percentage, they look fat as fuck? That doesn't mean that they have dirty bulked, giga bulked, and or put on significantly more amounts of body fat tissue than actual muscle tissue due to them being aggressive or dirty again. If that person is taking their muscle building journey seriously, they have executed a slow lean bulk for not only a year, but even maybe 2 years, which meant that they have maximized their muscle growth potential due to being in a small calorie surplus, but not getting too fat by each month over 2 fucking years. You cannot compare the amounts of muscle that that person has built compared to someone that main fucking gained. Even pro-level natural bodybuilders struggle with this. You won't magically turn into a mass monster. You will have to force feed yourself and be satiated 24/7. The average person won't willingly go through this. So fearing that your bulk will make you a fat fuck shouldn't be a concern of yours. And even if your bulk starts off a bit more aggressively, you've gained some body fat more than you would like to have gained, bulking isn't linear. Your natural appetite will at some point hinder you to gain any more body weight or therefore body fat because you just cannot eat anymore. And for most people, you will at that point, or maybe a bit below that, be at a good body composition where training is really fucking productive. You can at that stage maintain that weight and eke out the benefits of main gaining, or cut down and get the benefits of cutting while being at a higher body fat percentage, where training is still anabolic as fuck. Compared to bulking, cutting is a fucking breeze. To bulk properly, you'll have to bulk for at least 6 months, up to 12 months or even beyond, if your body composition allows that. But even if you gained substantial amounts of body fat, which you're not happy with or you feel uncomfortable with, you can just shred down that body fat in just 1 or 3 months via a quick cut and be done with it like that. Now compare a bulking season, which takes 6 to 12 months. How long would the fucking main gaining season last? For the rest of your life? You would essentially not be sure if you're actually building muscle or not for the rest of your fucking life, instead of just committing for a real bulk while being absolutely sure that you're making progress in the gym via building muscle due to the surplus. The beauty of bulking cutting is also that the difficulty of it decreases over time. You get more proficient at it, you learn to bulk at a more reasonable rate so that you don't have to end it after just a few months because you've gotten too fat, and that you don't have to cut for too long, which therefore lets you maintain more amounts of muscle mass due to you not having to cut for a fucking year because you've gotten fucking obese. When it comes to gigabulking, looking like fucking Jay Cutler in his off-season, this type of gigabulk could allow newbies to make all the newbie gains in a faster rate due to them maxing out their newbie gains potential in that first year instead of it taking any longer. Having done a gigabulk is also a huge confidence booster for skinny guys to show them that they can actually fucking eat. This will make their lean bulking experience after that a fucking breeze. But eventually, as the rate of muscle gains which you will add onto your frame declines over years to come, you should therefore also make your bulks less aggressive in the years to come. You should not be dirty bulking, gigabulking or whatever if you're an intermediate or advanced lifter, because you will put on much more body fat than actual muscle mass. As I've mentioned it earlier in the video, the main goal of a building phase or bulking season is to progress your lifts. Seeing progressive overload occurring is the #1 sign that you're building muscle. Progress doesn't just magically happen from main gaining or adding 100 fucking calories due to fear of getting fat. You definitely won't build any muscle if you stay at 10 to 12% body fat year round as a natural lifter. To put yourself in a position to progress your lifts as optimally as possible, make sure to do the following. Weigh yourself every morning. Now figure out a specific calorie number that lets you maintain that body weight for 1 or 2 weeks. Now, before adding any calories on top of that, always assess your gym performance before that. Are you progressing? If yes, stay at that same calorie intake. If not, make sure that you're using adequate volume that lets you recover and dial in your sleep. If you're already doing both of these factors right, proceed to add 200 to 300 calories after your body weight plateauing causes your lifts to plateau. Aim to gain around 1 or 2 kilos per month for a minimum of 6 months, up to 12 months or beyond if your body composition allows it. At some time you will hit a body weight plateau, which simply means that you cannot physically gain any more muscle without force feeding yourself and or puking on every fucking meal. Once you're at that stage, you can either maintain that body weight for however long you want, if your training is still very productive at that body weight and or body fat percentage, and if not, do a quick mini cut for 1 or 3 months till you are at a lean enough body fat percentage, which allows you to build up from again for a long period of time without having to cut after a few months again.